I kind of look at series 2 as you know, X-Men 2. You know, we split the characters apart and they all come back together for the end.
Coming back. Okay.
Sort of thing. That's how I'm working. But it's really, I mean, it's taking me a long time. I did suffer from a depressive state at one time and just wanted to give the whole thing up. But that's sort of, you know, name me one writer who doesn't sort of, you know, want to give everything up. And so it's working at every single subplot and, you know, nuance. And, you know, something I noticed because Americans and Canadians love the show. I've noticed, what have I done to impress Canada? Canada loves me. I have no idea why. But I met some of the guys. I met Brad Bell at the Indie Soap Awards, who does a web. Sorry, really, he calls it a TV show for the web called Husbands. And he was over last week in London for Comic Con, and I went out with him and Jane, who is co-writer, who's like, you know, turns out Mrs. Josh Whedon, and I have no idea. Okay. And it's like, oh, I've just got you guys fish and chips, and oh, fuck, I'm here next to the person who sleeps with Josh Whedon and has children with him. Oh, okay. So, but how Americans do it is, you know, they have joke, 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 joke. In England, we tend not to do that. I think in America it's a joke every 8 seconds, and in Britain it's a joke every 30 seconds. That's how sort of, you know, most British comedy works. We do it on the situation rather than the comedy.
Although Doctor in the House, I thought those was like a joke every line, wasn't it?
Well, there was the Carry On films.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I'm terrible at writing jokes. That's the thing. I cannot write a one-liner to save my life. I can do catchy comebacks. So the humor would be more Blackadder-ish, Richard Curtis, than Carry On, because I cannot do Carry On double entendre as much as I love to. But funnily enough, the king of current double entendre in England is a guy called Julian Clary, who may be familiar to Americans. I don't know.
Not heard of him.
He's very effeminate, sort of, you know, very tall. Good evening, Panthers.
Okay.
There's nothing I like better than a warm hand upon my entrance. You know.
He had 2 lips on his organ, right?
2 lips on his organ, yeah, absolutely. But his main writer, funnily enough, is David McGillivray, who plays Herzog.
Okay.
His double entendres are all written by David. So, which is an amazing thing. You know, this guy started off doing schlocky horror and is now doing sort of buggery jokes for Julian Clary. And funny enough, I've been invited to an after party for the end of Julian's tour tonight, so I'm considering going. You know, that might be a bit of fun. But I can't do that. So for series 2, we're upping the comedy as well, because I know a lot of people liked it. So that's what we're doing.
The comedy was there in series 1. I mean, some of it was subtle and double entendre. I think on 2 or 3 occasions you used the joke of "you can't spell something," the succubus joke.
You can't spell succubus without "you suck."
Yeah, but you used that, I think, in a couple of other cases. I thought the humor was subtle, but definitely there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's sort of.
It's not belly laugh.
It's not belly laugh. Unfortunately, I cannot. I'm unable to write belly laugh. I can do, you know, in the final episode. I mean, I won't spoil it, but we are, you know, we go into sort of, you know, the Great British Farce. Of sort of, you know, we have our equivalent of people coming into a door, you know, coming into a room and then going out again, sort of thing. We have our equivalent of that. It just involves a lot of special effects and people sort of coming and going and vanishing and appearing. Blah blah blah. So that is something that will probably go into it. We will keep farcical elements. We will keep sort of, you know, the cattiness, but we're going to try and up the one-liners as well. There's new things that we're going to try. I mean, I don't really want to sort of spoil.
No.
But there are interesting directions that we are going with series 2. And the main direction is that it will be more adult.
Okay.
Because for the first series, I originally wrote it for 15-year-old girls. No, we didn't get that audience. We actually got a more mature audience, and you know what? That is phenomenal because that gives me the ability to now write adult themes into it. There was themes in there. You know, we talked about alcoholism and single motherhood in series 1, but we can do more mature themes
and keep it clever and subtle without having to be obvious to people.
Well, we're not saying there's going to be nudity. There'll be a brief bit of flesh, you know. But I'm not saying who. I'm not saying who gets it out. But one thing I will reveal.
I'm guessing it's abdabs. Is it just the skeletons?
You know what? People had discussions about how abdabs and amicus would have sex. And you know what? The answer is they have fun doing it. You know? Let's just say, you know, at the end of the day, amicus is still an incubus, and you know, and abdabs is jealous. He's kind of actually a jealous type. So that's something for series 2. And somebody, Viscera gets a love scene.
Oh,
she does. I actually asked.
Well,
I'm not going to say with who, but it is with one of the characters, and I said to Liz, you know, would you be willing to nog this other person? And she was like, oh yeah. So yes, I'm not saying who, but you know, there's a love scene.
Okay, well, we never really met the Malevolent's baby daddy that wasn't Viscera playing around with. There was some betrayal there.
There's some betrayal, but betrayal is there to be forgiven. You know, Viscera helped Malevolent during a very difficult time, and so they're friends again now. So. Will Viscera meet the baby daddy? We don't know because Viscera may be somewhere else when this happens. Okay. You know, it's all about how the subplots work. In series 1, you'll notice we only have 2 locations. We have Chris's bedroom and Hemingway's. Now, in series 2, we're going to go a little bit further and see more of the realm. You know, see more of the worlds that they exist in.
Hemingway's is a historic location, isn't it?
Hemingway's is, you're gonna, everything you learnt in history class is wrong. Sorry. The Mayflower did not set off from Portsmouth. It didn't. It set off from London. It actually set off from Rotherhithe. You know, when it took the Pilgrims, okay, you could call it like a bus terminus. You know, It was Grand Central Station. It stopped on the way at sort of Plymouth or wherever it was. But no, it originally set off from London. And so the pub that we shot in is called the Mayflower, and it's a beautiful, very, very old pub, and it's the oldest surviving on the Thames. And if you ever come to London, please go and visit it. And they were so wonderful. The production designer discovered it completely by accident. He just went there, and we were sort of struggling trying to find a specific pub that would look decent enough for Hemingway's. And they just said yes, and they gave it to us for peanuts. And we could go in there at 9 a.m. So we would film from 9 a.m. till 6 p.m. and then we had to clear out. You know, we had to be out at 6 p.m. Everything had to be broken down, and they were lovely. And then sort of I just thought it was a one-off, but then they were like, oh well, you know, we've got oh god, what's his name? James McAvoy's coming next week, and we were like, what? And it turns out this pub is used all the time. And we had Hugh Laurie, and I can't watch it because it's geo-blocked, but in one of the Kardashian show, somebody goes to England and gets, they essentially buy a title, and he gets sort of, you know, I name you Lord whatever. Now, I don't know who this person is, but that was actually filmed in the pub. You know, if you watch that and watch Bloody Mary, you can actually see, you will recognize it. You know, but
I probably wouldn't.
So they're making money now. This pub is making money from this. So, like, you know, Arab sheiks are coming over who want to be made part, and they're thinking, because they've seen it on the show, it's all official, and that the Mayflower is the only place you can do it in. So, you know, so they're making a fair bit of money, and so we were like going, can we come back for series 2? And they were like, oh yeah, you can have it for nothing. So we were like, okay, you know. So, but that's that.
Leave it to Puritans to leave a pub without a drink in their hand, right?
You know what? Sort of, when I lived in Philadelphia, sort of, people would come up to me and blame the English because we sent all our religious guys to the States, and you know that's how this, you know, the religious right is studying America. And I just casually pointed out that, you know, well, you know, we sent all our criminals to Australia, and you don't see the shoplifters controlling the vote in Australia.
No, the state of Georgia.
Imagine you got Rupert Murdoch. So
the state of Georgia, when it was a colony, was a penal colony. That's which explains a lot.
That says a lot.
Explains a lot about Georgia.
Hey, now don't mock. I spent a very fun week in Atlanta.
Atlanta's a wonderful city, and I have.
It is. Everything's called Peachtree, but it's lovely.
Yeah, but we also have some very interesting relatives who are from the more rural areas of Georgia.
No, I drove through, and it's like, you know, every time somebody would say, "Oh, English teeth are terrible," it's like, I've been to Georgia. Hello, you could not say that.
You watch Doctor Who?
Yes. Did you hear the news?
Yes, Matt Smith is leaving. I wanted to ask you about that. What do you think?
Well, I hope he's sort of, you know, the TARDIS doors don't slam in his magnificent, massive ears on the way out, you know. Did I like Matt Smith? I'm going to be honest, I thought he was too young. Great actor.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, wonderful. But Doctor Who is your cool uncle. He's your, you know, and then they changed him, and he's like, you know, he's now your older, you know. Yeah, I know the dynamic changed when it was brought back and there was Rose, but even at the time, Christopher Eccleston and even David Tennant, you know, they were in their 30s. You know, Eccleston was in his 40s, and the decision to do Matt Smith was just, I think it just didn't sit right with me. I just thought he was too young, and now I'm really worried that sort of, you know, they're going to keep up the trend with another actor, and it's with another young actor, and it's like, no, at least stick him back to 35.
Susan, our assistant, thinks that it should be Patrick Stewart. He would be an interesting Doctor Who for a series.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure he would be. He'd be willing. It would be great, but it sort of changes the dynamic. We've got too young, we've got too old, you know. There was somebody else, and I was reading tweets about potential people, and somebody suggested, you know, John Kerr, who was in The Office, the American version of The Office. John, what's his name? Krakatoa?
Krasinski.
Yeah, somebody said him, and I was like, you know, I got really pompous, and I was like, no, you know what, you've got more chance of seeing a British man commanding the Enterprise. And then I just realised, oh shit, that's Captain Picard.
Yes.
I got on my high horse for like 2 seconds, and completely embarrassment.
He was French in the show, so that doesn't really count.
He was, yeah, sort of, you know, the most British-sounding Frenchman I've ever met. Yes. You know, that guy was obviously not Parisian.
Well, in the future, everybody talks with a British accent, I guess.
We do. It's true. Sort of, we're leading the way. You know, no, our empire was years ago. You know, bits of crumbling off left, right, and centre.
You can keep Madonna and Gwyneth Paltrow, please.
Is she? I don't know. I don't know where Madonna is these days. We're sort of, you know, she has essentially turned into Gollum, though, hasn't she?
Pretty much.
You know, it's Gollum in a wig, and you know, But I always have this joy with Madonna, and you know, there's supposed to be a line in series 2 where Amicus discovers something. And the only person he can tell is Samantha, and he goes, Samantha, I've got bad news. And she says, what? Madonna's done another urban album, which will probably sort of go because people under 25 just really are not interested in Madonna. But
Don't tell her that.
there's a great thing. I'll have to tell you this. I mean, it's not part of the show, but Madonna did. You know, she did the song "Give Me All Your Love," the one that she did at the Super Bowl.
Yes.
The video featured a lot of Smirnoff vodka bottles, and so you know, obviously Smirnoff had put a huge amount of money into making this video, and in England, warning signs went off because it was promoting alcohol. You cannot promote alcohol to anybody under the age of 18. It cannot be in children's shows or anything like that. And then, so an investigation was launched, and the results were the video was allowed because nobody under the so Madonna has no relevance to people under the age of 25. That was stated